When someone doesn't hit their deadlines, when project delays keep happening, when things go over budget, what conversations are you having? Are you talking about what needs to be refined? Are you going through plans, asking the person to come up with new ideas? Or are you listening to excuses and hearing the same conversation over and over and over? I've been there. I had a team member that every single time we'd meet, it was, yeah, this thing's delayed, but it was because this other person, and it was deflect, defend, deflect. Nothing to see or hear, folks. It was all excuses over and over. And so in our meetings, I would sit down with her and go, okay, like, let's figure this out. Have you tried this or that or this, or what about this? And we would spend session after session talking about ideas and possible things to try. I was giving all the ideas. She was nodding along and saying, yeah, I'll do that. And then next week it was the same thing. And the week after, the same thing. It didn't get better. It wasn't fixed. Things were still late. There were still excuses. And I realized, okay, I got to do something really differently. And if that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Because this feeling of accountability of like, why isn't someone taking this on and running with it? Isn't that their job? That is missing in every single role. Yes, there's diamonds in the rough, and I feel very fortunate to work with a lot of them as business owners and a lot of the managers that I coach in all different places. But a lot of people out there, they would rather skirt accountability like that if they can get away with it. Because we don't really want to have our butt on the line. We don't really want more responsibility. Maybe we're tired. We're not really motivated. We don't love our job. And if no one's chasing after us, why would we do something differently? That might not be you. Because if you're running a business, or you started a company, or you're a leader, or you're overseeing people's capacity, maybe you do have that drive to kind of say, okay, I'm going to figure this out. But if you're dealing with folks that are on the other side of that are thinking, well, if I don't have to do anything differently, why should I? Then you're like 99% of the rest of us that are figuring out what the heck to do in this situation. And that's what we're going to talk about the show. I'm Leah Garvin, and this is the new Manager Playbook, where I'm on a mission to make managing your team the easiest part of your job. And it is so freaking hard when you are the one that has to come up with all of the ideas, when you're the only one that's paying attention to deadlines and deliverables and budgets and growing the business and hitting the OKRs and whatever you're doing. It's way harder when your teams aren't feeling accountable to that. But why are they not feeling accountable? Because you set some goals, and maybe you have a conversation to check in on progress. So you've done step 1 right, step 2 right, but step 3 and step 4 are where things fall apart. And that is follow-up. So when they miss a deadline or miss a goal or miss a thing or are off budget or don't hit their numbers, there's a follow-up to discuss that. There's asking them what they're doing to fix it for the next time. Not excuses, not looking back, moving forward. And then step 4, maybe it's about 3, it's a step 3, A and B, or step 3 and 4, giving feedback. Here is what I want to see next time, and following up again. It's a loop. Set the expectations, get someone off and running, but you got to check in. And when something isn't happening, that is where the leadership is happening. And that's a step we're all skipping because it can be uncomfortable, and because our team members aren't used to it, or they don't really come up with an idea, or they just stare at us with a blank look on their face, which happens a lot of time. Like, I don't know how to come up with a plan. I don't know how to fix this. I don't really know how to do my job, is maybe what they're implying. And this is not about bashing your team members, but it's holding your team members accountable to know how to do their job, to figure it out. If the plan that you established was to, let's say you work in a design agency, deliver this, brand overhaul, or, this, website redesign or event, and in this amount of time under this budget, and they delivered on time, but it's 10 times over budget, or even 20K over budget. Did they do the job right? I don't know. If the budget is critically important, then there's a conversation on, okay, what went wrong? Where do we have a misstep? What should we do differently next time? And people are owning those follow-ups, not just you, because you're going to absorb that in your pocket. Or if you're in a corporate world, not just nobody, because money doesn't count in a lot of companies that we work at until the end of the road when there's performance evaluations, and then stuff starts to come through. When we're not checking in on things that did not happen and people know that, why would they follow through? I said it already. We're all tired. We're all over it. It's like so much going on in the world. It's a lot. You've got to create the conditions. Now, this doesn't mean that everything is, everyone feels like you're cracking down and it's like, oh God, like if I'm $1 over budget, I'm going to get fired. No, but it's, hey, we want to be stewards of the budget. When we go over, we talk about it. We figure out where it went wrong. We're glad it was only $20K on a, $1 million project. But if it's $20K on a $50,000 project or a $25,000 project, now you got a problem. So you can't just decide arbitrarily that something mattered or not. Same thing when things are late. Now, working in big tech, I worked in all different kinds of teams. So in somewhere like Apple, that hardware, that's not going to ship late. That's, the thing that's going to be announced in their big presentation on the stage. That thing's happening. The team was ready no matter what. Right? Working in software, somewhere like Google, deadlines were a little bit more flexible, right? So it's all about what you are reinforcing and the culture of your team and company. If you're running an events company or managing an events team, the event is not moving. The person's wedding or the red carpet event or the big conference, this isn't moving. We all know everything has to be done on time. But how you get there, and if you go over budget and you lose your margins, and if it becomes a nightmare, that's the thing that you and your team are all responsible for. If you work in software, could you push the launch a couple days? Maybe. Does that affect anything? Maybe not. Maybe there's not a huge ripple effect. But when things are late and you just boom, change the date in a spreadsheet over and over and over, what are you reinforcing? That we don't have deadlines, that deadlines don't matter. You know what? High performers, they don't like that. They want to know. They want to drive towards something. They want to have a sense of completion. So you're reinforcing behaviors by not following up and avoiding. You're actually reinforcing the behaviors that actually only the folks that don't care about the kind of way the job comes across. You're reinforcing it for them. Accountability can feel uncomfortable. Having these follow-up conversations, it can feel uncomfortable. People can make excuses and point fingers and not want to come up with an idea. There's a lot of blaming. There's a lot of, and maybe you don't want to hear that. Maybe you don't want to have that conversation. Maybe you don't want to give difficult feedback. Sorry, that you're a leader. You've hired these people. These people are on your team. It's part of the job. I'm not saying it's everyone's favorite part of the job, but we have to do that. That is what it's part of what we've signed up for. If we are a business owner and we wanted to scale our business and our idea, and we've had to do that through hiring other people, we have assumed the responsibility of following up when things like this happen. If we're a manager in the corporate world and we have agreed, whether we were mandated to become a manager or not, I know a lot of us did not want to be it, right? So I think only 3 out of 10 people want to be a manager in the corporate world. And so that means 7 out of 10 are maybe you're a manager that was put in that role and they said, hey, this is the next step. You got to take this if you want to keep being on the team. Let's just say worst case. That's your situation. By being there, if you want to be in the job and you want to be successful, then you have implicitly signed up for this. That is part of it. So the conversations around, hey, we got to figure this out, that's part of the job. Now, this doesn't mean getting in people's faces and yelling at them and saying, acting in kind of some, whatever your most scared of situation is to having a hard conversation. No. I'm saying creating forums, postmortems, retrospectives, meetings after something's been completed, regular feedback, talking about it in your one-on-ones, project team meetings, and having conversation around how are we going to get back on track and fix this for next time. What is going to happen if we don't fix this? It doesn't just mean people get fired. Does this impact bonus pool? Does it impact raises? Does it impact opportunities for leadership potential? I don't know. That's on you to figure out. But there is a way to have accountability conversation without them feeling like threats and ultimatums. What I like to do, I think postmortems are incredibly valuable. What I like to do, though, is to have a conversation around what we all think happened and then what each person specifically wants to do differently. That again could be a postmortem with a group where you all talk together about the whole structure and where things went right and wrong, or it can be a one-on-one. I also like to look back at internal processes. Are there ways that we can simplify this, make this more efficient? Did we track something in a way that made it clunkier? Are we using a tool that's not helping us? Are we not using a tool at all so we don't have visibility into how long things take? I like to look at behaviors and process and systems. I think we can solve things on both ways so that we're showing, hey, we're getting thoughtful here, but we will be doing something different next time. When these conversations around what went wrong are all in the past and they're saying like, well, this person was rude and the client was really frustrating and someone didn't deliver on their piece, and it's all looking back, nobody's taking any accountability for what's happening next. I'm just going to be really clear. And that's what happened to me in those team meetings. I would meet with this person and she'd have every excuse in the book about why things didn't happen on time. But we never really made a plan of her saying, I will do this differently. We said, well, could you have done this? Would you like, what do we want to try? It was just like fluff in the air. That kind of thing isn't helpful. It's saying, hey, okay, we've got a lot of ideas here. What is one thing you're going to try? How are you going to do that? When are we going to check in about it? How are you going to know it's working? These questions are helping someone own the plan and shift things from the future. It is such a frustrating conversation for you to have when you realize, again, the budget's over and again, the project's late and again, this is happening and like no one's accountable. I work with a lot of folks that run med spas and spas in general or gyms, and they're seeing again and again their providers, their practitioners, or their coaches not hitting their numbers. They have goals and the person has an excuse and a reason every single month. And they say, well, January is really slow because, post holiday, or the weather was really bad, so no one came in, or there's this. And they're like, okay, well, like fix it for next time. That's the conversation. Now with my clients, we got a game plan. We're going back and then saying, okay, we're not really looking back. What is your plan to do differently next time? Okay, February is a cold month in a lot of places. What are we doing to get ahead of the weather? What holidays are coming that we can do promos around? What ways can you be doing referral things? Like what can we be doing to ensure that everyone, when they're in our facility, that they're getting the most of it? They're maybe looking at products and service pairings. What are we doing to make the most of that visit? Asking your team member to come back with a plan. What are they doing differently? You tell me, you're the expert. I'd love to hear you think. And if the person, again, they have a blank stare and they say, I don't know. Is that person right for you in the long term? This conversation is not about firing your team members. There's a lot of things that we got to think through in that situation. And as I've said, I don't advise just saying, okay, get rid of them and start over. I don't advise that. I advise you to hold people accountable, give feedback, to set expectations, to have these conversations and say, this is what it means to be successful here. This is what it means to grow. This has been a hard topic, I know, for a lot of us to think through. None of this means you're a bad leader. None of this means you've blown it and you've made all these bad hires. I strongly believe that, especially in a moment where there's so much chaos, so much confusion, so much change, the more clarity you can give in this area, the more you get people to hold on to, actually, the more stability they feel. I think that you will see, and I hope you will be pleasantly surprised by your team members, that they step up, that they're eager to have these conversations, that they're rolling up their sleeves, that they're saying, okay, like, all right, let's see, what will I do differently? I have this idea and that idea. And you will be even better equipped to coach them and help them generate these bigger ideas, and to be going back and saying, okay, well, yeah, here is some infrastructure stuff that I can invest in as the leader of this team to support some of these ideas. But you're not going to get there if you're not having the conversation. The conversation comes first. Talking about, this happened, so what are we going to do about it for next time? This is going to be game changing. If you're not having these conversations, I am so excited, because this is where you see everything transform. And if you're having the conversations and you feel like you are already pulling all this out of people and you're not getting anywhere, then it's a question around, okay, Are you using the right levers? Are you just talking about pay or advancement? Are there things around leadership? Like looking at, there's always more to the surface when we peel back the layers. It's starting here. And if you're getting stuck, you're like, I don't quite get this. Reach out, hello@leagarmor.com. We can figure this out together. And this is going to be what you need to scale your business and scale your team in 2026. Things are just getting harder. They're getting more competitive. We've got to figure this out. And getting your teams bought in and participating and taking personal responsibility, well, like, yeah, that's the reason we have a team, to scale. See you next time.